So as we go through today's webinar, we're going to look at setting the context and having a look at some research that CASS undertook to look at what system leaders, school leaders, and teachers said about professional learning needs. We will be showcasing 3 school authorities and their Alberta stories of practice, that being Chinook's Edge, Edmonton Public, and Fort Vermilion. And then we'll engage in a dialogue around this topic and look at system leadership in action. In terms of this webinar series, we will be looking at a lot of aspects related to career education and high quality career education. So looking at what is a high quality career pathway, what practical approaches could we have a look at, undertake? How do we establish clear system direction and build capacity? What are the key challenges that our 3 feature boards have experienced, and what enabling conditions have they taken to approach those challenges? We'll engage in a collaborative dialogue, and we'll look at how do we translate provincial direction into context-responsive actions. In terms of the SLQS and the LQS, we're looking at these particular competencies. So the realm of effective relationships, visionary leadership, leading learning communities. And then if you're a system leader, we'll be looking at governance. And if you're a school leader, we'll be looking at that realm of societal context. As we frame today's discussion, it's my pleasure to introduce you to our speakers for today. Dr. Gloria Antifayev is a CASS Principal Leadership Consultant whose leadership and research continue to inform CASS work, including the advancement of high-quality career education for Alberta students. Gloria, can you just give us a wave so we know there? Thank you. We also are joined today by Fort Vermilion School Division, Mike McMahon, Stephanie Brown, and Kim Brown. And their work has been instrumental in advancing a comprehensive division-wide approach to career pathways that connects early exploration to meaningful experiences and post-secondary transitions. From Chinook's Edge, we have Brianne Fletcher, and she brings leadership from a community learning campus and school authority model with a strong focus on integrating career pathways, dual credit opportunities, and partnerships with post-secondaries and industry. From Edmonton Public Schools, we have Graham Dowdall, and Career Pathways Coordinator, who supports the development of system leader structures that expand to career-connected learning and strengthen alignment between student interests, programming, and future pathways. Together, these leaders bring a range of perspectives and experiences that will help deepen our understanding of intentional system design and can support all students in navigating their futures. So with that, Gloria Antifayev is going to share the research that is the foundation to this particular webinar series.
That sounds great. Thank you so much, Colleen. And nice to see all of you here this morning. I saw a number of you at the TAVE Summit last week in Calgary. So I think we have the crew that's really excited about career education here. On this slide, you'll see a QR code, and that will take you directly to the professional learning needs assessment that I'm going to be talking about. This document is posted on the CASS website, and then I also have a slide at the end if you didn't catch this QR code. Colleen, do I have the option to advance the slides myself, or will you be doing that?
I can do that, but I could also give you access. So.
Sure, whatever you prefer. We can go to the next slide.
Okay.
So the needs assessment that I'm talking about here this morning is the result of a conditional grant that CASS and the consortium received from Alberta Education a year ago in spring of 2025. And the purpose of the grant was really to, or is to expand professional learning opportunities for teachers and system education leaders in the areas of career education and career and technology studies. The timeline for the grant is March 2025 to August 2026. So at about this time of year, you will be noticing a little bit of increased activity in professional learning that is available in your school authorities. The consortium has a number of professional learning opportunities running related to career education. And on the CASS side, at our annual conference, we had Dr. Kerry Burns speaking. He was our keynote speaker about his research on career education. Of course, we've got Colleen here doing a series of 3 webinars. We also had career education sessions last week in Calgary at the TAVE Summit. But one of the key deliverables of this grant was to develop a provincial-wide professional learning needs assessment to identify the current strengths, gaps, and priorities in career education. And I see I can advance. Super. Thank you so much, Colleen. So we did conduct the needs assessment in June of 2025. June's not the best time to be doing a survey, but you know, when you've got the grant, you just go with the timeline that you have in front of you. But I'll tell you, the responses did not disappoint. We had 125 responses, and the survey was available in both English and in French. And the people that responded to the survey were probably our passionate educators about career education. And I'm sure that some of the people here attending this webinar participated in this survey. Depending the role that you played when you entered into the survey, you had to choose between one of 3 groups, and then you were asked pretty parallel questions, but maybe worded a little bit different. So we had career education teachers and career counselors, principals and vice principals, and then our third group were system education leaders. Typically, those are CASS members or people in central office. And we distributed the links through CASS and through the consortium. The responses were anonymous, and we do acknowledge that the findings represent the views of those who chose to respond. So it's not intended to be the provincial perspective, but I believe that we've got a pretty accurate range of responses that give us some validity in this needs assessment. Looks like I lost. Oh, there it comes back. Okay, go ahead. One of the questions on the survey was to have people identify key characteristics that would define career education. And so this is a synthesis of all of those responses, and I've highlighted in blue for you some of the key words that came forward. So that notion of it being student-centered and the skills and the knowledge that we were giving the students would really carry them forward, and understanding that career education didn't stop after grade 12, that it was indeed a life process. We also identified that career education helps learners understand themselves and explore diverse career options and develop the skills, experiences, and plans that they would need for that future success. Again, this notion of lifelong learning was really emphasized. Self-awareness came up a number of times, hands-on learning, transferable skill development, strong community and industry partnerships, and that career education had to be relevant and had to have equity across context. And so ultimately, career education empowers students to make informed decisions, adapt to change, and confidently transition into adulthood with purpose and readiness. As an aside, Colleen and I are just putting the finishing touches on a survey that we did with grade 12 students. We were curious about their perspectives, about their experiences with career education. And it's, you know, we're a year later here from the professional learning needs assessment, but there were sure a lot of parallels between the 2 surveys. And at another time. Hopefully at a CASS conference, we'll get to talk about the grade 12 survey that we did. The participants identified a number of strengths in their current career education programming. They said that there was a clear student-centered philosophy, that they had system-level coherence and shared understanding. There were experiential and applied learning opportunities, and they did have community and industry connections. And they were able to focus on transferable skills and future readiness with their students. But you'll notice this big yellow work in progress sign because when we go to the next slide, Colleen, the gaps were pretty much parallel. While school authorities felt they had these things in place, they were very clear that this was a work in progress. Some of the respondents identified that there was a lack of coherence, not only in their school authority, but also across the province. They felt there was a fragmented delivery of experiences and a lack of alignment. And so what that meant is that perhaps in one school, they might have connections to a community or to post-secondary institutions, but maybe those weren't available at other schools, and there was an absence when these things weren't available. This whole notion of uneven access to high quality experience was mentioned. Geographic barriers was definitely a concern for those in the rural settings. Some people identified that their students would have to travel for hours in order to access a post-secondary campus tour or even a hands-on learning experiences. People also identified capacity constraints, that there was limited time for career education, staffing was an issue, expertise was identified as an issue too. Sometimes for teachers that were assigned the CTF, CTS courses, that they really didn't have the expertise in order to fully deliver that particular course. There was also clarity gaps, insufficient pathway knowledge and direction, confusion over pathways, confusion over directions for students when it comes to career education planning. And again, so there's that work in progress. Thank you, Colleen. When it came to the identified professional learning needs, this is across all three groups. These were the things that really came forward most strongly. Students' career planning and development, people wanted more resources and more information on how to ensure they're providing students with accurate current information. People wanted to know how to develop industry, post-secondary, community organization partnerships, particularly when it might be limited or distance plays a factor in that. People asked for CTS, CTF resources and training, more work integrated learning opportunities, particularly around RAP and dual credit. There was some commentary in the needs assessment about emerging labor market trends, wanting to understand how to access that and how to interpret that for their school authority. There was some requests for structured mentorship for non-CTS teachers. So if they are assigned to these courses, where can they go for mentorship and to strengthen their delivery? And then there was also a call for streamlined credentialing pathways for teachers in technical fields. And then since this audience is mostly system education leaders, I also zeroed in on what system education leaders were asking for. They were asking for targeted professional learning focused on career education leadership. So if that was one of the things that you asked for, you've come to the right webinar here today. People were also asking for career education frameworks and strategic tools for coherence in career education programming, not simply in middle years and high school, but starting right in K to 12. And in fact, with Dr. Carrie Burns, the keynote that spoke at the annual conference, this is really the heart of his research is how do we engage in a continuum of career education rather than sort of that heavy focus in high school. System education leaders also asked for collaboration or opportunities for collaboration. Some suggested communities of practice. CASS will be doing a call for their purpose statements for the next year's version of communities of practice. Maybe there's some people on this call that will submit some purpose statements, and we could create some opportunities for communities of practice. Of course, on the consortium side, they already are doing this. And then this notion of how to facilitate community and inter-industry partnerships was also something that was of interest to system education leaders. So Colleen, I'll just get you to go to my last slide. Again, this is the QR code. If you have any questions about the professional learning needs assessment, please don't hesitate to contact me. This QR code will take you directly to the report. Thank you, Colleen.
Thank you, Gloria. We'll launch into our first Alberta story of practice, and that belongs to Brianne Fletcher.
Thanks, Colleen. Can you hear me all right? Perfect. All right, my name is Brianne Fletcher, and I'm the director of the Community Learning Campus for Chinook's Edge School Division and Olds College. Just to give you a little bit of background on the partnership we have with Olds College, this partnership started about 2 decades ago, a vision rooted in collaboration and innovation. It was community empowerment, recognizing the importance of enhancing rural community capacity by fostering meaningful partnerships. And that ensures a seamless, high quality, accessible, and forward-thinking education for all learners, having that ability to access a post-secondary. And then with ours, can I just move to the next slide, please? This was really built on the foundation of our strategic action handbook that identifies effective school roles, staff learning and engagement, school strategic plans and actions, student learning experiences, and then career collegiate ready school structures and culture, a one-stop shop for our school division to have purpose and direction. And this also outlines dual credit, work integrated learning, career post-secondary pathway literate, and that parent engagement piece. So these are the foundations that have structurally built and supported our pathways in Chinook's Edge. So that is strategic imperative handbook, the idea that career planning is embedded early and built progressively across grade levels. Students are exposed to career awareness in junior high, followed by exploration of hands-on exposure. Sorry, Colleen. Yeah, we can go back there. Thank you. Followed by exploration and hands-on experience. This is supported through collaborations of our career connection teams. So these are composed of counselors, practitioners, off-campus coordinators, and teachers. And the division oversight, it connects school teams with consistent information through weekly emails, tracking through dashboards, the central drive that's available, our website, and supporting documents for the works. And some of the handbooks I'll show today as we move through the presentation. So some of the key decisions, sorry, I'll just get you to go back one more, Colleen. I'll let you know when I need to move. Thank you.
Sorry.
So some of the key, no, you're fine. Some of the key decisions and approaches that strengthen clarity of the pathway is the career readiness pathway model. So this is a major shift from thinking from that one size fits all to a clearly identified pathway. And you can see the encompassment of year 1 all the way up to year 4 of school programming and where it aligns. So everywhere from, your use of your school division to CTF, CTS, just that academic readiness and skill readiness when it comes to the career pathway. And then your post-secondary programming that consists of dual credit single courses and skill development, as well as our skilled trades and pre-employment certificate programs. With industry partners, they're right along the journey with exploration and early work integrated learning, as well as RAP placements. And then the use of your community partners through careers and placements from September to June. And then above all, those relationship pieces, the student support and career advising that is done from year 1 all the way up to year 4 ready for the student when they are, are planning those next steps. So that career coaching is really embedded in our model when working with students on their career planning and their journey through their high school academics. So the standardized messaging across our schools is aligning program with industry and post-secondary partners. So that's what's really unique about my role is I have my hands in the school division from the K to 12 side, as well as at that post-secondary side where I'm working alongside the post-secondary for opportunities through dual credit and just opportunities of exposure. So offering dual credit in real world experiences have made pathways more tangible and meaningful for students. So many opportunities each year is finding the right fit. So tracking and coaching comes into play where, we have learned from each student on their unique pathway through student panels, careers meetings, directions and visions for future years. So working at every level and having that ability to have multiple entry and exit points, school level tracking, as well as post-secondary tracking for when the student is going through the experience. And then you have that tracking piece that's embedded in your off-campus, dual credit, pre-employment, and then just getting that feedback when it comes to the students and parents of what's working well. Next slide, please. So how are roles and relationships supported and coordinated throughout our pathway system? So our division team is really the gears to get the movement of career pathways. So with the associate superintendent and myself, we have career connections coordinators at the division level, as well as the career practitioners. We also have a career student engagement and an off-campus coordinator. So it allows us to work with our school teams that have the same type of model where administration is a big part of it for direction, and then working with those career counselors, career practitioners, classroom teachers, and those off-campus coordinators that are in the school. So it really allows us to make sure that we have our hands in all the pots and making sure that we are connecting students to those wide variety of experiences. And then our partners come into play with industry and community partners and our post-secondary institutions that we work with. So really our strategic handbooks, our counselor year at a glance. Next slide, please, Colleen. Our dual credit and off-campus handbooks set direction when it comes to the responsibilities of our schools. So knowing their roles, knowing expectations that are clearly defined on a month-to-month basis, that allows them to really know what opportunities are available and what supports can be put in place for students that are navigating their career pathways. Next slide, please. Our dashboards, when it comes to tracking, student supports are tracked throughout grade levels. So when we have experiences in grade 9, they are unique to those grade 9 students. And then we subject students more as they move up the ladder into those grade 12 or possibly grade 13, 14 experiences. So tracking allows everybody to be on the same page, knowing what students have experienced, as well as what maybe barriers are in their way for their post-secondary exploration. So it's really important that just defining those abilities to be able to break up those levels to ensure the student is exposed on multiple opportunities. Next slide, please. So the tracking is similar to a CRM model where the staff capture students' progression towards post-secondary. So we're doing it along the high school line as well as the post-secondary. So the ability to have the division team situated at Olds College, we're able to be right beside the student as they're going through the experience in our on-site trades opportunities. We capture that information, which is then relayed back to the school to ensure the student is well surrounded when it comes to opportunities that are next for them. Administration and Career Connections team are a whole staff implementing that process of tracking. So it's not just the counselor that has their hands in it, it's multiple people that have that ability to build relationships with students and capture what the student is thinking beyond those high school academics. Next slide, please. So some of the handbooks that we have put in the hands of our counselors or, just in teachers' hands that are able to, navigate the pathways of post-secondary or financial supports, we developed handbooks. So this is one of the handbooks that is available to our school teams, as well as parents and students. This is an access point where it has links that parents can definitely dive into to see, all the information that is needed for those next steps. So our financial handbook, it does everything from terminology to post-secondary aids, skilled trades and apprenticeships, Indigenous students, access to Rutherford, quick links, tips and tricks, and even a prepared essay for our students to apply for scholarships. Our next one, please. Our trades and apprenticeship handbook. So we found that our staff and our students and our parents didn't really have a good sense of all the ins and outs when it came to the trades. So we developed a handbook that did trades career exploration, as well as trade apprenticeship basics, becoming an apprentice, working, technical training, and all the ins and outs when it comes to the AIT exam. Next one, please. Another one we did was World of Work. So we had a lot of students that said, you know what, I'm going to take a gap year, so I don't need to make a decision. We wanted to provide them an opportunity so when they did make that decision, they had all the essentials to dive into a post-secondary or a trades-related career if they wanted to go in that direction. So everything from applying, cover letter, resumes, interview skills, how to succeed in the working world, and just living independently by, setting up budgeting and service supports and costs for living. It gives them all the logistics when it comes to those next steps. Next slide, please. So really, when we look at lessons learned to inform other jurisdiction, consistent messaging across the board is critical to staff, students, and parents. That's really where those handbooks come into play to support students when they're ready to have those conversations and to guide them in the right direction. Divisional support. So that division direction, it keeps things moving in the right direction, and it prepares staff that are working alongside our students to really have what they need in order to support those decisions that are being made. Early exposure matters, relationships drive success. So that's a big part. We took a lot of time in just the coaching model, being able to talk to students. It was amazing to see, teachers that were wanting, or counselors wanting that expertise on, how do I sit down with a student and really navigate those career pathway conversations? So we showed it to them. Relationship drives success, like I said, and flexibility is key. So meeting diverse students' needs and removing barriers to really have that access point. And then parent meetings, school websites, celebration, counselor nights, career days, weekly emails, drives, dashboards, all those crucial pieces that really support the work when it comes to our counselors and our practitioners within our schools. So those are the lessons learned that I can tell from our standpoint of what has worked really well in our division and what we continue to refine and revise.
Thanks, Brianne. As we come to a close on the first Alberta Story of Practice, just seeking any questions that you have relative to that story of practice. And we'll get an opportunity to unpack more of the details as we move forward in this particular webinar. But any questions at this point? Okay, well, let's dive right into our second Alberta Story of Practice, and it goes to Graham.
Awesome. Thanks, Colleen. Brianne's a tough act to follow. They do a lot of great stuff, and we benefit from it too because we do dual credit with them, and they do make it real easy for all of us, and we do appreciate that. Yeah, I guess we can skip this one. That's just the questions we're going to work through. Yeah, I guess a little bit about myself first. I always forget to introduce myself. I'm Graham Dowdell. I work in Edmonton Public Schools, program coordinator of the Career Pathways team. That's a central team of 7 people this year, working on stuff K to 12. And we do a lot of things, and I'm excited to walk you through some of what we do, but also try and keep it to 10 minutes so I don't tell you everything that we do. But if you have questions, always happy to answer them. So let's go to the next one. So the very first thing is this is our Career Pathways model. This is K to 12 for the division. And we think of moving students from awareness to understanding to readiness. And maybe doesn't quite come through on here, but there's questions about who the student is, how do they enjoy learning, what do they enjoy participating in. As we move them along that model, If you want to see this, also you can email me. epsb.ca has it as well. And this could be, all of this could happen in 1 year for a student. Maybe they join us in grade 12 from a different school division or from somewhere outside of Edmonton or outside of Alberta even. And we can try and work on moving them forward through these areas as they get ready for that transition to life after high school. It could also be a student that starts with us in kindergarten and they're going from K to 12 and they're ideally on this journey that whole time. Oftentimes at the younger age, it's a lot more about, generating their concept of self and what are they into and how do they like to help and how do they want to relate to community. And then naturally, by the time we're getting to high school, it's a little bit more focused on what's that next step for them and what are they trying to get to and what makes school worth it and meaning and how do they get to wherever they want to go after they're done with us. So that's the model. Some background on this model. Oh, sorry, one more time, Colleen, back to the other one for a little bit. We established this in 2014 based off of a symposium with community members, division leaders, teachers, students. And then we did another symposium in 2018, again, meeting with stakeholders, just to make sure that we were still on the right track with it. And then we came up with our core principles for the Career Pathways team, which are focusing on programming, authentic experiences, community connections, and focusing on the future. And we think of all of that as being part of our Career Pathways model. And we use this, like I said, K to 12 in our division. And it had its 10-year anniversary a couple of years ago, and we're still going, which is great. Next slide, please now, Colleen. So then what I did is I tried to pull down just what we do at the division, 1 and 2, and then 3, and then 4, and we'll march through them all, but we'll talk about some of the stuff that we do. So this is what's centrally supported. We have a lot of schools doing a lot of amazing things, but we'll focus for this one on what is like a central support that the Career Pathways team works with. So at all division levels, we do instructional approaches and professional learning. That can be that can be design thinking, that can be inquiry-based or project-based learning. We support all of those types of learning methodologies. We also have a thing called Community Marketplace that we do. This one's pretty neat. We work to build those community connections. We find those interested folks that want to work with our students. And then what we ask them to do is have a 40 to 60 minute hands-on session. It can be virtual or it can be in person. That was a gain through COVID. They were all in person and then COVID happened. So then we made them so they could be both. And then we ask the teachers to pick what curriculum they want to have connected to. We have the community member that has an area of interest they can talk about. They create an activity for a student. And then we run like a back-end community relationship manager that does like booking and makes it just simple for everybody. A teacher will put in, I'm interested in these 3 times. And then the community member will be able to say, this one works for me. And then we'll book them to go in and talk with that school in that class. Just try to make it, lots of teachers have those connections on their own, but also it's sometimes nice to have a lot of the friction removed from that process. We also support inquiring minds. We also support maker spaces. We have a thing we run called Maker Week, where we create a prompt every year. And then we encourage students from across the division to like work on that real problem that's been identified in the school communities. And then students K to 12 can take their best stab at it and do some design thinking with it. And then, we do like a showcase and like a wrap up afterwards and share some of those cool ideas that the kids had. We also use My Blueprint. At the K to 6 level, that's the All About Me version, but we do use it with them, again, working on that like self-image kind of piece. And then looking at what's different at the Div 2, CTF starts to come in. But other than that, the supports are quite similar at that Div 1 and 2 level. And then next slide, please. Looking at Div 3, some of the central stuff we do. Again, instructional approaches and professional learning. CTF is in there. We also have Career Day at this point. Every year, our division runs a virtual Career Day. Often people ask why virtual, and we say because the budget is $0, so virtual is great. We get people to volunteer. We usually get somewhere between 100 and 125 speakers. We create like a conference style Google site, and then kids can choose how they want to interact with the day. Schools can also choose, like, are they going to suspend classes for that day and have students all attend virtual career day? Are teachers going to pick what sessions are relevant to like their chemistry class or their English class and then put a session up instead? Are students going to have the opportunity to go to like their learning commons and just tune into whatever they feel is more relevant? We leave that very much up to the schools. We're site-based decision making, so schools get to pick, but we usually get somewhere between 10 and 20,000 students participating, which is pretty great. And then those are 45-minute sessions where some people do a presentation. Some people, Jack Michaels from the Oilers always comes and he just does 45 minutes of question and answer from the kiddos. So he just gets peppered with questions for almost an hour, and it's a delight to see, and everything in between. We've also got Inquiring Minds, Community Marketplace. We've talked about some of these things already. My Blueprint switches to the Education Planner. At Div 3, we really like to focus on getting our grade 9s to create a good high school plan as they make that transition from Div 3 into Div 4. So if they've looked at the school they're going to be attending, looking at what they're interested in, considering stuff like RAP or dual credit that's going to require some timetable space, and having those conversations with those grade 9s about what that could mean. Div 3 is also where our collegiate starts to show up. We realized we had a lot of cool stuff at the high school level, and we had a lot of junior high students that didn't know about that cool stuff at the senior high level. So our collegiate really focused on bridging that transition between junior high to senior high and making students more aware of what opportunities exist that we'll talk about on the next slide, but just to make sure that they're aware of them. And then student interest surveys on there as well. Every 2 years, we survey all of our grade 7 to 12 students to ask them what career paths are of interest to them, what areas. We build that off of the national occupation codes and the short-term economic forecast from Alberta. So then it helps us to, it helps us write our dual credit grants. It helps us do our course code applications. That's one small piece that it's good for. It's also very good for us looking at alternative programs or program development to know, what are our students interested in? 3 years, 3 surveys, so 6 years running, it's health. Careers in health is the most interesting for our students here in Edmonton Public. Business is also up there, engineering, technology, the usual suspects, but those are kind of our perennial top 3s. And then looking at the Div 4 stuff, a lot of the same things that we would have seen at Div 3. We're adding in our HCS 3000 system. We have a system that we built as a division so students can do all of their learning and their testing and then get their marks and get their certificate for HCS 3000. So we support teachers with that. We run the whole thing, and then teachers can see who's done what on their dashboards that we make for them. Same with CTR 3310. We use that credit to be like a guided tour of my blueprint, so kids can see what they can accomplish with my blueprint and then get credentials or get credits for it. We don't mark any of that stuff centrally, but we do create like the, kind of like Brianne mentioned, like we make the dashboards, we make it so that it's not on the school's plate to try and keep track of all this stuff. We got it all in one place for them. They can go to that spreadsheet. We got a resident spreadsheet wizard that makes things real easy for everybody. And then teachers and administrators and principals can find that stuff. We also support a lot of dual credits. And I guess we didn't talk about campus EPSB. I'm going from bottom to top on this one. Sorry, everybody. Campus EPSB is a model where our students can access special opportunities at individual high school sites from whatever high school they attend. So like an example, we have an aviation program at one of our high schools, but students from anywhere in the division that are in high school can express interest in that course. And then if they can make it to that physical site for the afternoons of semester 2, they can take that class. So it's not just for the students at that one high school, it's for all of our high school students. And campus does that for a lot of different special opportunities we have, like single enrolled dual credit apprenticeship. We have an electrician one, kids from anywhere can sign up for that. We have this aviation one, kids from anywhere can sign up for that. And yes, we do get our principals to share, and yes, they do like to do so. So it works out real good. And so that's some of the stuff we have at Div 4. And then on to the next one, please. So some key decisions. I would say developing that career pathways model and going, next one too, please, Colleen. Developing that career pathways model really helped situate this work for everybody across the division and show how it's a continuum, and it's a K to 12 thing that we're all part of doing. And it's not about it can get easy to focus on the numbers and the metrics of those grade 11s and 12 kids and are they ready, but that if getting them ready starts when they're in grade 12, we're way too late. So having that be a K to 12 thing is really good, and it brought a lot of division and outside of division and community members together to talk about that, and it was good work. We've been using my blueprint for quite some time, I think almost 10 years. That's been really good as well. Creating that community marketplace started that kind of like maybe more formalized and more structured, deliberate community connecting, and then maintaining those relationships, because then we use those same people. They do community marketplace. Sometimes they'll do career days. Sometimes they'll be part of our networking lunches. Sometimes they'll be part of youth experiences going out to off-campus sites. So structuring that makes it a little easier to maintain and to continue. Launching Campus EPSB was a key decision. Getting full speed ahead with dual credit was a key decision. This stuff's coming up on its 10-year anniversaries as well, and it's been a good 10 years. And then the most recent big change for us was getting that skilled trades and technology collegiate going and just targeting those junior high kids and facilitating that transition to, we've got all this cool stuff at the high school level, but just making sure that more people know more and then they can make better choices. And then next slide, please. And then one more. So yeah, kind of the roles breakdown. We're part of a lot of communities of practice, like the counselors, the CTS department heads, the off-campus teachers, the career pathways leads. Some of those we run, some of those we just attend and we're part of. But again, the career pathways team in Central, we like to be part of those things. CTF is part of that as well. There's more than I listed there. We have our division level meetings. This stuff comes up there. We created what's called a career pathways throughout the year planning document for principals in the division, so they can see like when's Maker Week going to be, when's career day going to be, when's Inquiring Minds going to open up, when's community marketplace going to be, and just make that not a checklist, but just make it a little easier for everybody, right? And that's that last bullet point here. We like to build systems and just try and make it easy, because if we can save everybody 10 minutes, but we can do that 100 times, then maybe we can really make it a little bit easier for everybody out there. Not usually do we find the one fix that saves 100 hours, but we can probably put a lot of 10 minutes together. So we look for ways that we can just make it a little simpler for everybody. And then 2 slides ahead, we can look at lessons learned. For us, really big school division. I worked in a smaller division before Edmonton Public. It's always bandwidth. In the small division I was part of, it was bandwidth. In this big division I'm part of, it's bandwidth. It's all bandwidth. There's a million cool things happening every minute of every day.
Just muting my PD, Jesse, 1 sec.
Yeah,
Hello.
There's so much cool stuff happening.
How are you?
How are you doing?
I'm doing good.
Roger, you need to mute.
Just quickly, as I'm getting
Roger.
more than the 1 or 2 now.
He's not listening.
The normal thing, concerned parents. They love the child care.
Maybe Colleen can mute him.
I'm trying to.
I dealt with a couple of initial.
There we go.
There we go. Before we hear anything we're not supposed to. So yeah, lessons learned, bandwidth is at a premium. So if we can say it in 3 sentences, that's probably better than a document that's a page long, right? Which seems like a no-brainer, but also, when you're in this stuff every minute of every day, it's easy to love it to death. And then you want to talk about it a whole bunch, but they don't have time. I would also say creation of systems to support comms and like inter-school collaboration, like that Campus EPSB model, where we take a lot of that part on. Like we handle the student side of that. We handle the planning with the schools. We do all of it in collaboration with them, but we like to smooth it out and remove as much friction as we can. We found some success in direct-to-student messaging. That's something that many years ago we didn't do. We started doing more so a few years ago, where we just let kids know, like directly into their inbox, dual credits opening on Monday. You should consider this stuff, and just going straight to the kids with it. I'm a big fan of running agendas that persist for all of the community practices that we do. So you can look back at 7 years of conversations and talking points and things that we've learned and sometimes forgotten, and we can relearn just by looking at our agendas again. And the Career Pathways Hub, we have an intranet we call Connect. It was great, but stuff was everywhere. So a couple years, year and a half, 2 years ago, we did a deliberate rebuild to just put those screen caps that I showed you today are just straight from that thing. Just puts it all in one place so teachers don't have to have 20 links. They don't have to have 40 links. They have to have a single link. And we try to put everything we have on there just so it's easy to find. And that's all I got for you.
Graham? Any questions for Graham at this point, ladies and gentlemen? Okay, well, let's segue into our third Alberta story of practice and turn it over to Fort Vermilion.
Hey, everybody. Great to be here today. We've been attempting to blaze a trail in collegiate for a while now. What year it is? 4 or 5? Can't remember. You can go to the next slide. Maybe I can click it, can I, or no? Yeah. Ultimately, I have the two smartest people on my team that will present most of this, but I think the biggest thing is to set the direction. You need to make it a priority in your strategic plan, give some money to it, and never depend on government to make you happy. And so how you figure out to be successful and move it forward, and then constantly exploring new pathways and how do we get there. We're recently moving into, and I think I shared this with the small group, we're recently moving into Dragon's Den, where we have put away of $100,000 this year, in which hopefully we'll replicate over the next 2.5 years to build a fund of about $500,000 to invest in kids for entrepreneurship. And they will actually have a mentor from the community that's a business partner that we pay an honorarium for them to be successful, and they pay us back, potentially co-signed by their parents or something. We haven't figured it all out yet, but then to really take it to the next level. And we'll talk about some good things about, some key mistakes probably, or key learnings, and some things that set us apart, especially like from scheduling and semesters, and all of our kids get an opportunity in their career. So I'll turn it over to Kim.
Perfect. Thank you, Mike. Good morning, everybody. So really excited to be part of this team, and really excited to share what our division is doing. So as Mike said, making careers a division priority is a game changer for us. And where you focus your attention is what grows and develops in your district. And so obviously making it a division priority, we have the support of our school board. It then goes ahead and embeds all of your planning at your district and school level. And so, at those district meetings and as schools are making their plans, those conversations about careers are constantly embedded in what they're doing. And so, of course, as we make it a priority, comes the allocation of staffing and that structure. So that really intentional process of, okay, how are we going to staff careers? What do our schools need? What do our students need? How do we connect with industry? What do we have in place for that? And then we did some really great work this fall as a team, coming up with what does it look like to be successful in careers? So you add that priority, and then you really need to unpack that for principals. And kind of as Graham was mentioning, it's really principals are really busy people, and they have a lot of things on their plate, and this is a fourth priority for them. And so how do you communicate with them to say, this is the, what we're expecting. These are the indicators of success. So if you're doing this within your school, this is what this could look like. And so, 1 to 4 is, of course, kind of growing with the divisions. But also, as was chatted about earlier, you may be towards, in your high school and starting to experience some of the career path choices and realizing that, hey, this really isn't for me. And you're circling back to exploration. And so what are my strengths? What are my interests? What fills my bucket? What gives me purpose? And then kind of heading back in through that development and growth and back to experience. And so, although it can sometimes be a little bit linear, and our K-3 schools are often just staying within number one. It's also a cyclical process. And so these indicators really help us to guide our conversations with leadership. Having it K to 12 is just a wonderful gift. And so Stephanie has spent the last couple of years just digging into K to 6 and making sure that we have that really strong foundation for our students and that connected pathway. And that is key and just really exciting as we head into as those kids that have had this foundational work head into middle school and then of course high school. And alongside that, that intentional work around self-development with our students. And she's going to talk about a couple pieces that have been key there. And then our career academies. And so as you know, this is probably at least, 3 years of work and a lot of hard work by people before me, but creating those 12 academies is how we roll with it. And I'll show you, if you'd want to skip to that next slide, please. We've broken our our collegiate or our careers programming into academies, and so this language and this talk persists from K to 12. We have a little aptitude and interest survey that we're using to help support this work because as you know, when you sit down with students and even us as adults, we are not sure, sometimes what direction we want to go. And so this can just give us a little bit of guidance, but I will turn it over to Stephanie to talk about some of the great work at K to 6 and K to 9.
All right, thank you, Kim. And sure enough, the recess crew is just kind of coming in here. So if for some reason you guys can't hear me, if I need to talk a little louder, you let me know. So in September of last year, FESD decided to start intentionally incorporating that K to 6 career exploration piece in our structure. Knowing Mike, it was an idea rolling around in his head years in advance, but last year is the year I stepped into this role. So if Colleen, you can go to the next slide for me, please. So one of the things that we've done is create career crates. An important piece for us was really that alignment all the way from K to grade 12 and even beyond. So what I've done is with the career crates, we've made sure to make sure each theme is around the academies. So what the career crate is essentially a thematic play bin that can be signed out by schools. It has, pardon me, I'm hoping I'm not going to cough through this whole thing. It has elements of dramatic play, it has lesson plans, activities, and each bin, again, is all of those things are based around one of our academies. So if you're doing the math here, you'll notice that we have 12 academies. On here, you'll only see 10 listed. That's because the Agriculture and Natural Resources crate has been combined into one, and the Transportation career crate is still in progress. So schools can sign this out, so principals can sign them out. Some schools have a dedicated space that they'll set it up for the month and classes can rotate through. Teachers can sign it out individually for their classrooms. There's different ways that they can be used. So one of the important pieces of this is it really helps, especially in our area. I'm sure many of you, can identify with this. A lot of our kids don't even know what careers are out there, right? They see what their mom, what their dad does, what their aunt or uncle does, and they don't really see kind of beyond that. So for example, our health and bioscience career crate, some kids might know that there's, doctors or nurses or dentists, but when they get to explore with that crate, they learn a little bit more about a physiotherapist or an occupational therapist or mental health workers. So it really exposes them to different opportunities. The other thing it does is really start that self-reflection process early. So right from kindergarten, kids are starting to say, well, did I enjoy that? Do I like doing hands-on stuff? Obviously, we hope that our teachers are kind of guiding those conversations. And so it supports self-reflection, it supports the vocabulary that they're going to be using, all of those skills that, again, will carry on throughout their career path. And you can go to the next slide, please. So the other thing we have been doing is skill building with the Let Grow project. So really I always wrestle a bit with the terminology here. Soft skills never quite hits the mark for me because I always find that it sort of has a bit of a connotation of less important, maybe. Whereas I think this could arguably be the most important thing we're doing for our kids, especially early on. So it's really that character building piece. We know that things like reliability, cooperation, problem solving, resilience, those are necessary skills that employers are looking for. Um, and unfortunately, a lot of our students are still kind of lacking in that area, even as they get into junior, senior high. So, in the interest of time, I won't go into it in too much detail. There is a link there. I'm also quite happy if anyone wants to email me, I can give you more information. But essentially, what it is Let Grow provides free resources to the school. The teacher can introduce a certain characteristic or skill for that month, and then it's actually a home project. So a list of possible independent activities go home, and then with the parents' permission, they pick one, and the child does something that makes them step outside their comfort zone, and they do something without their parents, without an adult. So you can see some pictures here. These are our actual kids. A student making supper for his family for the first time, someone stepping in to help clean up the house without being asked, and just doing those things independently. We know how much that supports problem solving, and it supports just confidence in themselves. All right, and then you can flip to the next one. I apologize. I know these pictures are awful, but just to get a sense. So the next thing now, again, up until recently, my role was really just K to 6. I'm stepping into that junior high piece a little bit too. So this piece is kind of in the early stages. But what I've done is looked at the CFL curriculum. I've kind of highlighted, okay, these are things that we have resources in place for. We're pretty solid to step, forward with it. And then also highlighting, things that maybe we have some supports, or maybe our careers team needs to be ready to support a little more, and then also things that we're really starting from scratch. One of the things that we do have in place, though, for our division, we call it our lesson launch pad. That's the external education resource slide you see there on the right. And so what that is, for the purposes of this presentation, I'll focus on the CFL section. So all of those resources within New Learn Alberta that have already been supplied, and anything else we come across that can support that curriculum, I put in here, and then it's actually organized based on grade, curriculum, organizing idea. And so teachers can just go in and they click a link and it takes them directly to that lesson plan, that video, that resource. So that's, and again, this it's been built for our teachers, pardon me, for our teachers K to 9. So it does have more than the CFL resources in there, but that is where we're starting in terms of kind of organizing those supports for our junior high teachers.
And for the low price of $19.95 a month, you can have it. No, just kidding. We'll give it to you if you want it.
Do I get a cut of that, Mike?
So, Mike is always looking for revenue generators, as you will see in our lessons learned. Thank you, Steph. So this will kind of overlap with our question that Colleen assigned us after our stories of practice, just to kind of keep our time tight, because I think we're stealing time a little bit. But so what are we doing that continues to strengthen or strengthens our clarity? So we chatted about the common language K to 12, so talking about our career paths and our academies and what does that look like. So common language helps all stakeholders. Common timetable. So moving to a common timetable for next year already, as I'm starting to work with post-secondaries and work with industry and consider all of that planning, the puzzle pieces just start to fit. So we are blessed with being a small jurisdiction. And I say blessed because you can be quite nimble and you know all of your partners really well. But coming together and saying, yes, we're going to commit to a common timetable, it just makes it that much easier to plan and support each other. We follow a post-secondary schedule, and that has been a real game changer. So we have our fall term, our winter term, and our spring term. And just that alignment itself, it's just been huge. And we like that, we were in a quad system before. So sometimes the semester is a little bit long, a quad's a bit short, and this kind of falls perfectly in the middle. And what this allows, which has been really powerful, and we're into our second running of it, is this spring term. And so all of our students in high school, and we started the sign up in February, all of the students sign up for basically a career experience or career-based learning in term 3. And so they either get 2 3-week sessions or a 6-week session where they are fully immersed in something that they would like to do. So we have everything from our Edge Homes program, where the kids are building small homes on site, full working construction site. We have a partnership with a ag research facility here, and so the kids are there doing the spring planting and working along with the scientists. We have some amazing Red Seal journeymen that are also teachers, and they are teaching their trade. We're running our level 1 childcare. The list is endless, and so kids got really excited this spring to be able to sign up for this again, and it's kind of like a no barriers term. So the busing is provided where the kids can get transported around our jurisdiction. Our small schools get to come to our bigger collegiate facilities and try things. And so this has been a wonderful addition. And next year, we're moving our grade 9s into term 3 programming. So our grade 9s will wrap up their year at the end of April, and then they will step into career-based learning. So we are very excited for that move. Another piece that we're putting in place is just becoming more intentional around what does CTS programming look like in grade 10. And so sometimes we jam pack our grade 10. We're going to get those credits done in our grade 10 year. And we have never left any space there for our kids to really get excited and interested, or find out what they don't like in terms of their career paths, so that we can better guide their high school experience. Once we know what do you really like, and it could be 2 or 3 different types of areas, and what do you really not like, we can better say, yeah, you should take this course. No, that course doesn't seem to align with what you need. And so what we're really allowing for our grade 10s is it could be up to 5 different career explorations in these foundation courses, which are just bundling of CTS courses, to allow them to explore those pathways. And then we can better guide them in 11 and 12 and 13 and 14 into where we need to connect them, whether it's post-secondary, credentialing, off-campus experiences, etc. Next page. And those are just, that's just an example of our brochure. So we did a mail out to our families. And then when we're trying to break it down for our schools, because this is a little bit of a shift, even up here, it's like, well, I'm a core teacher. I teach, within the maths and sciences. And, you have your couple of CTS teachers, and it's like, oh, no, wait a minute. Everybody is teaching within career paths. And of course, we're going to align you where that best fits, but helping our schools understand a more fulsome progression through CTS credits, and as well as other opportunities. Next slide.
Yeah, so as Kim just mentioned, we're really trying to change that, kind of have a mind shift of that understanding that everybody within our division is important in this career path structure. Of course, here we have a list of kind of some key players. And within our division, within, of course, anything, it means that, collaboration and communication become key. And within our division, Kim is sort of our support person, our lead person. She does a fantastic job of making sure that she brings the groups together. We're kind of making sure that everyone's on the same page and that we're all moving forward with the same purpose. So that's really a key piece of the many, many things that Kim does is working with all of these stakeholders to make sure that we're moving forward in the same direction.
All right, lessons learned. So that picture is one of Steph's career kits that she put together, and I those kids are, I think, help me out, 4, 5, and 6 age, and
They are this was
loving
they
it.
yeah, they were grade 4 when this was taken.
Okay. But they were just as excited as a grade 1 student. What are our lessons learned? That clarity of purpose and vision is constant work with our stakeholders. And so, you think people are on the same path, and you're talking to somebody, you're talking to a parent, and they're still or it could be your colleague, and they're still unsure, where are we going with careers. And so it's constant work. We did more school-based and community-based meetings, and kind of, I don't want to say promotion, but just constantly going out there with our stakeholders and answering the question, why careers? And so circling back to that a lot. Patience. Like I said, our jurisdiction is quite nimble. We move quite quickly on things, and then I still had to have patience. And so patience, and more patience. Give the ideas time to sit, build the capacity, have patience there. Go back to go forward. So finding the balance between new and exciting opportunities, and then building the capacity for uptake. So we have an exciting opportunity to offer pre-employment electrical with Northern Lakes College, but we decided to go backwards because we've never taught electrical. I mean, maybe it dabbled in it in our shops, but we didn't ever teach it. And so did we have the capacity to say, hey, you should be an electrician? We did not. And so we have this great partnership with NATE going on as a big opportunity in term 3. And we have 14 kids taking a 70-hour course with NATE to better understand. It's an intro to electrical. So they can better understand, okay, what does it mean to be an electrician? And now we're really excited because I'm so sure we're going to be able to fill those seats for pre-employment. Generate revenue for sustainability. That is Mike's motto for sure, and for all of us. So we have these great programs. We're so excited. We get the grant, we do all the pieces, and then now what? How do we sustain that? And so we get really creative here about how we're going to sustain that. And then celebrate. So sometimes, like all of us, you're kind of bogged down in the looking forward, but sometimes you need to pause and look behind and go, oh my goodness, yeah, 2 years ago we weren't even close to being there. But look at where we are now, and look at what our kids have accomplished and what they're doing. And so we're actually doing a Building Futures Gala, where we're inviting anybody, any of our students that have earned, parchment, credential, diploma, certificate. We're inviting them back to celebrate, and then they're bringing their employer, if they have one, or somebody to celebrate with them. But it's going to be kind of an industry luncheon celebration, kids getting credentials, some success stories. And so that event is happening at the beginning of June, and we're really excited for that. So I think that's it, team, unless you want to jump in and I've missed something.
And it helps to have a crazy guy at the helm that has ADHD and just keep.
Yes.
Jackie Taylor, don't laugh. You might be similar to me. Always thinking.
Always thinking. Wow. Well, I think all 3 Alberta stories of practice have much to celebrate. And definitely, I can't imagine the notes that others have taken, but some really original ideas based on each and every context that you're undertaking. So congratulations. And maybe what we'll do now is we'll segue into some questions that we've developed. Feel free to jump in. These are to engage everyone, definitely led by some of our folks that have spoken already. So the first one is around system design. And we're looking for, what was one decision in your system that is building increased coherence in career pathways?
Aline, I think one of the biggest ones for us was a shift on school calendar. And I realized in saying this, not everyone can do it, but being nimble, we were able to. And the shift in alignment to post-secondary, where we run a semester from September to December and write diploma exams before Christmas break, the only school division in the province currently that's doing that. Then January till April, and then in their last semester from April till June 6th, because that's when we're done, um, they are totally immersed in a career path. And we have to be a safe place for them to fail. So when they get to year 13 and 14, um, that they're in their career path totally and they're getting credentialed and they're done their high school career, but we keep them because that's also revenue, half the revenue in 13 and half again in 14 that funds the collegiate. It it's a hard trail. Those ideas are hard to blaze a trail because you're then attempting to, for lack of a better word, wag the dog, and change an entire system that has been stuck in the mud for 100 years. And so it takes a lot of political will, and it takes a lot of support from the board. But then you're talking with ministers and people to move that. But that was probably one of the biggest seismic shifts that we made for that alignment. And now that the path is there, it's way easier for everyone else if they ever decide to go there. But somebody had to blaze that path.
Thanks, Mike. So the whole realm of creating time and space via a calendar, if you will, or a school within the scope of a school year. Questions on that one? We'll segue to clarity and access. So what we're looking for here from our presenters, as well as you folks as participants, is looking at how is your system supporting students and families to navigate those pathways with confidence. And Brianne, what's happening for you folks relative to this one?
Yeah, I'll definitely get into that. I just see that Roger has his hand up. So do you want to take questions right now?
Yeah, maybe what we'll do is we'll just take them as we go along. Go ahead, Roger.
Thank you, everyone. It was for Mike and maybe Brianne, anyone from Fort Vermilion. And my question is, per the funding manual, when a student comes back for that grade 13 or 14, to get the funding that you get, do you have to also have them in a percentage of high school courses that are not dual credit? Or can you get the funding with a full focus on dual credit courses with your partners?
Yeah, you can get 100% funding on dual credit. So as long as it has a PSI code, you're golden.
Perfect. Yep. Thank you.
All right. Well, I'll go into clarity and access. So how we're supporting with confidence is we love our handbooks. This has really bridged the gap on just having that capacity with school teams using the same language and having the same understanding. So Career Clusters handbook that allows them to navigate pathways for students on other opportunities that just allow them to align and start thinking about those next steps. So clear communication on options, career focused programming and exposure opportunities, guidance from counselors, teachers, and pathway coordinators, access to hands-on labs. So what's unique about here at Olds College with our trades pathway, we have multiple levels to prepare students for those bigger opportunities. So similar to what Kim was saying, when a student is interested in, say, becoming an electrician, having those little programs available for students to take to really navigate it if it's the right pathway. So we do that from everything from heavy equipment technician to welder to electrician, just exposing kids so that they can really define their pathway to chase after those big experiences like a pre-employment. And then your active coaching is along that way too. So you're having those conversations and documenting, even selecting students when it comes for opportunities. We've developed vetting sheets. We have developed levels of support. So maybe a student is red flagged and he or she is just not doing well in it. What can we give to our counselors, our teachers to support that student as they navigate that pathway? And just following through in the opportunity. So not giving up, but actually checking that box and fulfilling that experience right until the very end. Again, when it comes to the gaps, so again, just you building capacity, making sure that everyone has that consistent awareness, giving access to all students. So again, with our location and scheduling, transportation, those are all barriers that we continue to maneuver around. And then that uncertainty around post-secondary and the expectations of transition. So building that confidence in students to really make sure that they have all the essential skills to jump into that experience. Again, we're going lower. So having that capacity in that K-8 system. So building career connection teams at those lower levels, similar to what we see in our high schools. Being able to track students so that we have all that data leading up to those grade 12 years where we can actually support the students in that launch when it comes to it. Actions to improve, again, strengthening communication, so presentation, resources. We're always modifying and just making sure that we're up to par with all the information that comes our way, to making sure our school teams have the supporting pieces in place. Expanding dual credit opportunities. So just again, with the career clusters, there's so many, there's 16 career clusters, and then just everything that encompasses underneath. So just exposure when it comes to those opportunities for students so they can touch, feel, and learn and be able to make those decisions after. Increasing collaboration. So that idea of breaking barriers between elementary, middle school, and high school, and having a collaborative approach that is student-based, really looking at the student and opportunities that go beyond possibly your elementary and your middle school insight. And then early exposure, again, career exploration, that ability to build kits and put them into our schools, just the time and the capacity that it takes to implement those. And then just enhancing supports with families to better understand options. So again, you can make all the handbooks that you want, but having that consistent messaging and information that parents can grab a hold of to support their students when it comes to their navigation when after high school. So those are my little key pieces when it comes to what we're supporting students to making those next steps.
And certainly the realm of awareness is important, and the multifaceted approach enables students and parents to look at options that they may not have considered prior to one of your events, for sure, or with your exploration kits. Yes. Any questions relative to that one? Okay, let's segue to our next question. Looking at this evidence of impact. So what sources of evidence are shaping your understanding of impact? And Graham, if we could go to you on this one, that would be great.
Sure. Thanks, Colleen. I would say, first one, in terms of sources of evidence, we like to put students first and foremost. We want to know what the students think, because the grown-ups think everything's awesome, and we got to check with the kids to see if they think it's awesome too, because they're who it's all for, right? But I would say, so the way that we do collect that, though, is we have our student interest surveys that we've talked about. We collect student feedback on all of our all those different programs that we run. So like our campus, our collegiate, our dual credit, our off campus, all of those students are asked for like qualitative like stories of, did this improve your readiness for your next step? What did you take away from this class? How could we make this better? So we do all of those centrally and pull those things in. We also just look at raw participation numbers in all CTF, all CTS, campus, collegiate, dual credit, and off campus. We pull reports every year to look at how many CTS credits were awarded in the division, how many students completed. Lots of qualitative storytelling. We do our division feedback surveys, of course. We look at our My Blueprint logins. We look at our My Blueprint high school plan completions. We look at, like, community marketplace we talked about. How many sessions have been booked? What are people's experiences? When we do career day, we look at what was the student experience, what was the teacher experience, what was the industry partners experience, what was the community members experience, and we keep reports of all of that. And then we roll it all up. We do a year-end report every year as the Career Pathways team, and we put all of the stuff we did. We have all of the stories. We have all of the numbers, and we use that to look, are certain areas growing? Are they increasing student interest levels? Are they decreasing? And try and, keep all of the plates spinning and look at the magic eye picture of what are kids interested in right now and where are they going, and how does that line up with labor market, because we pull all of that stuff in too. So I guess the short version of it, we pull lots of numbers, all the stuff that goes to PASSI, all the stuff that we can scrape down, we pull those numbers, and then we also have just a lot of points where we can ask for the student and community member experiences as well. So we've got both sides, because numbers by themselves are great, stories by themselves are great, but when you can put them together, you can get a little bit more magic out of them.
Graham, any questions around or other comments from presenters relative to this realm of evidence of impact? Segue to this one, strategic next steps. What we're going to ask here is that each of our presenters talks a little bit about the system level shift that they're working on to strengthen the career pathways right now. Brand, do you want to go first, please?
Of course I can. So moving into that, the CFL curriculum and being able to really navigate those career pathway planning, moving up into the high school level. So creating capacity at a lower level, creating the same systems that we see in our high schools in order to start navigating pathways at an early age and give exposure to students at that same level.
Sure. We're just working on, I think CEFL is exactly the right headspace as well, of just creating that, pull it down to the junior high level, create that stronger continuity of Div 3 and Div 4 with each other, and just get those students thinking about it a little bit sooner, get those teachers talking to students about it a little bit sooner, and then just have everybody teed up a little bit better for that. Not what are you going to be when you grow up, but more what are you interested in and what's next for you.
And Steph, Mike, and Kim, what are you folks up to next? We heard a little bit. Mike, you alluded to what you're up to, but would you like to add to that?
Well, I just think what's important is we have to think totally outside the box in order to elevate this and ensure that government sees different responses, because even if you think of a Dragon's Den, there is partnerships outside of education within that, whether that's Alberta Chambers of Commerce or those sort of things. So you got jobs, skills, and trades. You have under other ministries that we can use in terms of money for innovation and entrepreneurship outside of education. And so how can we leverage what we're doing with industry, but also government departments? So maybe education shouldn't be paying for it all. Maybe, there's certain aspects where everyone has a pot of money and they can talk about cross ministry collaboration. It just never happens really where the money shifts. And so how can we elevate this? One big picture thinking for me, how do we elevate this in a system level to shift the entire system of education so that we have more money coming in for specific pieces rather than it just coming from education? Prime example is health. We're doing LPNs and HCAs and those sort of things. So why isn't Alberta Health and Covenant Health actually paying for entrepreneurships within that, outside of careers, like even bigger than that, like expanding that? Well, that money can come from a different department. And so rather than us all going to one well, we go to 52 different wells to get our water. Me, I'm big thinking in terms of trying to change the entire system for kids. And I don't think it lies solely in the Department of Education.
Thanks, Mike. We're just about at our time for closing this webinar today. I do want to remind you about the next webinar, which will occur on May 12th. And there we'll be looking at system approaches to developing and sustaining industry partnerships. So we'll be segueing that way. I want to thank you for your participation today. We can stick around for a couple of minutes if you have some questions that you would want to ask any of our presenters, but this does bring our webinar formally to a close. So thank you for your time. Thank you for what you will do for Alberta students as a result of your learnings here today.